Zoning
Recording
Commission
in progress.
to public hearing minutes. The first bullet is Mr. Schneider moved and Mr. Schneider seconded, which wouldn't necessarily be what happened.
Wait a minute. Where are you on the first page?
First page.
Mine doesn't say that.
Are you on the August 5th, 2021, page 1 of 10?
1 of 10. No, it's on 1 of 6.
Okay. That'll be the next set. If you look at the first bullet about midway down, it says Mr. Schneider moved and Mr. Schneider seconded. I don't know.
I think I might have moved.
Let me check my notes.
All right. Nothing.
I think it was me.
It says motion to approve, Schneider second, Fisher.
Second for sure.
Okay.
You did the next one.
Okay.
All right. So it was moved by Schneider and seconded by Fisher. All right. Were there any other adjustments that anyone else had noted?
Wait, sorry. Are we talking about who?
August 5th.
So August 5th, so the public hearing meeting minutes. Yes, it was moved by Schneider, second by Fisher. I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I was right.
And then I also noticed on page 3, the last paragraph just above the bullets, it says Chairman Marzullo entertained a motion to approve the plat. I believe that plat should be plan, unless I'm mistaken. Because it was a preliminary site plan. And then
The word plat a second time in the same sentence. I thought it was intended to be that way, but it may not be. So maybe.
and again, I think you're correct, Mr. Arland, that the second plat should also be planned. And then I believe we had the same on the next page. The second line says Trustee Kalina stated that trustees will be meeting August 17, 2021, and the trustees do have the plat. That should be planned, correct? Trustee Kalina? What regarding the preliminary site plan for which one is it? It's the one on
This is Pine Hill.
Pine Hill, yeah. Pine Valley.
Yeah.
I probably said plat.
Plat?
Because we did have the plat we were signing off on.
Okay, so that may be, all right. And we were signing off on the plan, so that
Correct.
lines up. Were there any other notes on this one?
Oh.
Everything okay? Trustee Kalina?
Yeah, I thought we lost everybody for a second, but we're okay.
All right, great. If there's no other adjustments to this set, you can go ahead and I would entertain a motion to approve as amended.
I'll make the motion.
Moved by Rubel. Second.
Go ahead. I'll second it.
Seconded by Ms. Crew. Please call the roll.
Marzullo?
Yes.
Fisher?
Yes.
Rubel?
Yes.
Crew?
Yes. Manley?
Yeah.
Okay. And the last would be the special meeting, the continued regular meeting minutes from August 12th of 2021. Has everyone had a chance to review those minutes as well? Did anybody?
I'll be frank, I haven't reviewed them all.
Okay.
Because they came in too late, so.
Understood.
I just had one quick note, page 3 at the very top, just the spelling of my last name. Not a big deal, but.
I think it's consistent throughout the document.
Oh, okay.
And I was reading it, but I wasn't 100% positive.
That's the correct spelling.
Correct.
This is the incorrect spelling.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
So the correct spelling is WRUBEL.
That's correct.
Okay. So
Page on that one.
it's also on the top of page 4.
What did you say, Zach? We had a-
Just the spelling of my last name was off.
Top of page 4. Same thing.
Were there any other adjustments to this one? Then I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes as amended.
Okay. Moved by Ms. Rubel,
I'll second.
seconded by Mr. Fisher. Please call the roll.
Rardullo,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Rubel,
Yes,
Crew,
Yes.
Manley.
All right. And ultimately, that kind of takes care of everything that's on the agenda. We didn't have a very robust agenda, and I'm mostly at fault for that. One thing I did want to give the board an update on. We did do a walkthrough of the conditional use application by the Buzzards Cove Screen Park. Ms. Rubel and I actually both attended that along with the BZA. Had an opportunity to see their plans and what it was that they intended to do. Ultimately, I believe they applied for the conditional use, as that would be, to the best of my understanding, Tom, it would be evergreen and would ostensibly be a permitted use moving forward in perpetuity. And the BZA had their meeting last week, and they voted it down. So they were not granted the conditional use permit, and it will not be coming before our commission. Just to give you guys that update.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Now, we did get a little bit of feedback from the public regarding the last couple of the last meeting, and one of them, again from 350 Hinckley, was specifically asking questions regarding the screening that we discussed pretty in depth in the text amendment.
For the solar.
Correct. I do think that's going to be something we are going to want to revisit in the near future, certainly in the next text amendment. In fact, I'm going to make a note of it. And for the most part, that covered all the feedback that we get or that we've received. And we also got one email from Nikki asking me to share with the public the guidance the zoning commission received from the Medina County Prosecutor's Office, and how those regulations do or do not apply to senior housing. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to actually share that. Now, I will say that one of the things that was pointed out by Mr. Smirgan in the previous meeting is that the general regulations do apply, not just in the R1 district. General regulations do apply across the township. And I recognize that probably seems contradictory to the decision that was reached regarding Pride 1, but legal counsel provided more insight into the conditional use versus the general regulations.
Hey, excuse me, now,
Yes, ma'am.
Hinckley 350, you said they sent an email regarding the text amendment for the screening.
Mhm.
But you didn't really say what they
I
said.
think it's in your packet too.
Yeah. Is it in the packet or?
It's sitting here, so
Okay.
someone gave it to me.
That might have
All right.
been,
Oh, was that you?
I don't know, because I don't have that in my packet.
Somehow I got this piece of paper.
Thank you, man. All right, so I mean, just to enlighten everyone, 350 Hinckley agrees that during the hearing was not the time to discuss removing sections already in the zoning code. We expect to have no comments at the September 7th trustee public hearing. 350 would like you to add some additional solar discussion at tonight's meeting. Not sure if this is new business or old business. We'd like the board to consider removing sections 18.5J or 18.6J from the code, beginning with some general discussion of why is the code screening anything? And more specifically, identify the accessory components the current code is screening. Similarly, we would like the board to consider removing sections 18.5.
Aye.
Is that I or L? I, yeah, it's got to be I. 18.5I and 18.6I from the code, beginning with some general discussion of why is the code securing electrical and control equipment? Is this creating some safety hazard for homeowners, fire department, and or the electric service company? It's up to the commission to decide if they want to look into other sections that screen accessory components or secure electrical and control equipment. Unfortunately, I will not be able to attend the meeting in person, but will attend virtually. Thanks for your attention to these details. Spokesperson for 350 Hinckley. So ultimately, I think that's what we were just kind of touching on is the necessity for the screening, whether or not it is a necessity. I think ultimately we put this in because there are other parts of the resolution that allow and in fact require screening. But generally speaking, they're on borders between different districts, specifically the B1 and R1 or R2 or whatever districts it's bordering. Something that involves mounding. Specifically, it defines the width of trees, how far spaced they can be. It's pretty in depth, and I believe there's a little bit of concern as far as the aesthetic of this kind of stuff in the residential districts, but frankly, in a rural township, aesthetic is whatever the property owner wants their aesthetic to be. And if To quote Mrs. Rushworth, she said, if my neighbor wants to put up a big ugly barn, it's my responsibility to screen it from my property. It's not the other person's responsibility. And I think that's a very fair assessment. I don't know that we need to place an undue burden on someone who's trying to put in alternative energy facilities just because perhaps there's a perception with some of us on the board that it would be rather conspicuous. I don't know that it's our place to necessarily do that.
No, I
Any
agree.
thought on that?
I agree. I think we discussed this at the last session too.
Yeah.
Putting it for the next time to discuss the text.
Yeah.
I'm good.
For what it's worth, I have reached out to Joanne Calabro, the chairwoman of the BZA, and the intent behind this is for both she and I to link up, and I want to get a little bit of collaboration from the BZA as to what in the code is causing them some sort of consternation or confusion, and bring it back to our commission and determine, all right, is there anything that we can do to help alleviate it? Much the same way I believe we have with the definition of the automobile service station. And now we have provided substantially more clarity as to what that actually is. We also touched on in the last meeting whether or not we wanted to review the table of uses in each of these districts. And that may be another thing that we want to put into the new business. A third potential item of new business would be a consideration of the creation of a third business district. And specifically, we've talked about down by the reservation, the Hinckley Lake Reservation, and that is something that might be worth addressing sooner rather than later. Any input on that?
My only input on those second two items is that, depending on where the comprehensive plan goes and when it happens and how quickly it happens, some of those things might be things for us to consider as part of the comprehensive plan process, as part of the questions that are raised, and then the commission takes it up after the comprehensive plan has come out, because that will provide us more, understanding what the community wants to enable us to better articulate, what goes in which districts and whether there's a need for a third district.
And Trustee Kalina, is there any sort of movement or kind of horizon that we can look at as far as a timeline that we might have an audit completed?
Phone to the microphone here.
Multitask here, control the camera. Well, that impressive, right?
You've done this before.
Once or twice. In terms of, and somehow it got moved over here now, Tom. It was over there, it keeps moving around the place. Where we're at right now is I'm going to be completing an application. I have the application and I'm starting to roughly work on filling that out without going too far until I actually get the approval from the rest of the Board of Trustees to submit the application. I wouldn't see why I wouldn't receive that approval from the rest of the Board of Trustees to submit that application. But ultimately, the Board of Trustees have to authorize applying for the application to receive a grant. And right now, and I had just just learned about this just after we had met with OHM to talk about the timeline and to talk about the audit for the comprehensive plan. So the Medina County Department of Planning Services is offering communities in Medina County a grant in order to help fund comprehensive plan updates. And that will pay up to 50% of the update. So right now, we know that our initial budget is going to be $7,500 to perform the audit. We don't know what the audit's going to bring in terms of route recommendations that they will offer. And then at that point, there's going to be a second project, if you will, that could require additional funding after that. So right now, what my goal is to apply for the full 50% because I'm not aware of any other communities at this point that are going to be making the same application. They have a pool about $5,000 from what I was told. So that's where we're at right now. So at our meeting on the 7th, I'll be asking the board for their support to submit that application. I'll immediately turn that application into the Department of Planning Services. We'll review it, and I don't know exactly what their timeline is. On a side note, you're talking about potentially getting together with the Board of Appeals, and that was always a goal that we had talked about, but the pandemic had really put a stop to that. In my conversations with the Planning Commission and wanting to have some kind of joint meeting with them to talk, we have a lot of new members, and I would like to share with our new board members a little bit about how things work. I hate to call it a zoning 101, but for lack of a better term, kind of a zoning 101, what's available with the Department of Planning Services, talking about how the whole procedures work, how the process works regarding zoning. And the Department of Planning Services is available to meet with our township and provide that training just for us on the 20th and I believe it was the 25th. It was Monday and Friday. So that'll be a question for this board to discuss this evening. It's the 20th and the 24th. Those are the two dates that they are available.
So would that be the 20th and the 24th or the 20th?
No, we would pick one evening. I don't imagine this would be. Yeah, I mean, I think it's the board's opportunity to get to know who the Planning Commission is, exactly what they do, a little bit of their background, and also, to talk about zoning because we do have a number of new members on the board. And so I think that's important for everybody to get a little bit more of a global view of what happens in zoning here in Medina County. And also, invite the appeals board to participate in that because, they also are the recipients of this information sometimes. So I think it'll be important for both boards if we can get that together on everyone's schedule. So the 20th and the 24th are the two dates that they're available.
I'd certainly be very open to that. And now, is this an evening or daytime?
This would be an evening.
Okay. That's good to know.
So you guys can talk about that. As far as answering your question with the timeline, I don't have an exact answer for that, but I felt it was important for us to go after the money.
Absolutely. Is there any sort of have you received any sort of indication as length of the process from the word go?
That process will take some time because you have to.
Sorry, I guess.
Yeah, the audit.
I didn't clarify. The actual audit. I'm assuming that'll be a couple months.
Absolutely. Yeah, minimum. Probably longer in all reality because you're going to have to advertise meetings. I don't know where we'll be pandemic wise. In terms of, I did have a conversation yesterday with Commissioner Hambley about our ability to hold remote meetings because that ability was taken away by the legislature. And at this point in time, there has not been any discussion within the state of bringing that authority back, although we'll see certainly what happens because I think we might get more participation if we're able to have true virtual meetings where our citizenry can participate remotely in those meetings like they did prior to us losing that authority earlier this year. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about the comprehensive plan process, being able to, really have some robust public meetings and have people participate. We had great participation in our meetings when we were holding remote meetings and everybody did an awesome job.
Yeah. No, and I was actually just thinking about it earlier today that how it's a shame we can't have folks engaged virtually when just because they either can't physically be here or there's a health concern. I've said it countless times. The more people we keep involved throughout the community, the better our government works.
Yes, we have 7 people online right now, but they can't say anything.
Yes, it's a shame.
Yes.
I mean,
But at this point, there's no discussion about remedying that.
yes. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So how would the board feel about potentially meeting with Medina Planning the 20th or the 24th? The 24th is a Friday evening. I don't know who wants to give up a Friday evening. Just throwing that out there. I would be partial towards the 20th.
I would,
I have an annual meeting on the 20th.
Okay.
So I just wouldn't be here if that's when you all meet, and that's fine. But
Mr. Fisher,
Either one's fine with me.
Ms. Kerr?
I can make either. That is my workout night, but.
Mr. Arline, how about yourself, sir?
I don't have my corporate phone with me right now, but I would imagine it's in the evening.
Yes.
Right now, I'm not on planes.
Probably about 7 o'clock. 6, 7, something.
Probably.
Yeah, so that should work. Would it be here or at the planning?
Yeah, we would have it here.
Oh, even better.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to have to go all the way down to Medina.
There's more of us than them. I would hope they would.
And have there been any talks about the zoning workshops? That I know when I first started, we had zoning workshops every year, and we had funds that would allow us to go out and actually learn about zoning.
Well, I think the Township Association has just, shut those down with the.
Because of COVID.
And,
It's a shame.
I'm hoping I hope we can all get back into that kind of stuff because those were very valuable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So for anyone that hasn't been able to attend one, which might be everyone except
Everyone.
Mr. Manley, you've probably been to them previously.
Yeah, I would generally say the ones from Cleveland were kind of a waste of time for the townships. The one held by the township associations and the state township association, they used to hold in the parks and at the state parks.
Yeah. So
It was an overnight. They were very good because they were all aimed at townships.
yeah, exactly. And like that's actually where I want to say 4 years ago, we learned about the land conservancies, and we actually had Western Reserve and a couple others come in, do a presentation to the commission, and obviously invited the community. And learning about that stuff it arms us. It helps us to do a better job for the township, rather than trying to learn on the fly, which can be difficult.
Usually what happens is they have a variety of workshops.
Mhm.
And I agree with David, even when the Township Association is putting them on, a lot of times the township will be within a city or, much more urban than we are.
Mhm.
And so you kind of have to choose your workshops that fit our community, but
Yep.
they're very valuable.
And really, they have several different workshops going on simultaneously.
Right.
And so you can pick and choose and say, okay, do I want to go to the, the policing workshop, or do I want to go to the land conservancy one? And I mean,
And they usually
they kind
have,
of spell it out.
they usually have someone from legal and it's really good.
It is. It's the ones that I went to were well run and certainly a good amount of information. Suzanne sends out the ag law updates, and if you're not reading them, I would strongly recommend reading through them. Just kind of gives you an update as to what's going on across the state, and sometimes you'll find something that'll make something flick in the back of your brain, like, ooh, that might be something we need to talk about. Just the same way we I know for a lot of last year or 2 years ago, we kept talking about the wedding barn out in Litchfield and the significance that that can have on a community such as ours. And really, we haven't done anything as far as agritourism.
There's not much you can do.
We haven't had too much talk lately about,
Well, that's because tourism's dead, but
it's still out there.
yeah, once COVID ends, if it ever ends, that might be something that could still be a something on the horizon looming for us. Any input from anyone else? No. Tom, what do you see on the horizon?
What's that?
What do you see on the horizon? What are some of the things that are giving the zoning office in general headaches that we can work through up here?
Well, I don't know that I have anything specific that's a headache, but, you know, we continue to build houses in Hinckley.
Mhm.
We have the Pine Valley Phase 1 approved, and that street has been put in over there in West 130th, so housing is going to continue. And, you know, we continue to be busy with decks, additions. I mean, it really hasn't slowed up much. I think it's slowed up. We were talking about it today a little bit simply because of the price of everything. Some people are holding back a little bit on, okay, let's wait for this new deck. Hopefully the material will drop. But having said that, I think I did 4 new permits today and 1 house permit. So, I mean, it hasn't slowed up much.
Yeah.
But we'll be making a list of concerns we have when we get into this comprehensive plan and so forth. And if we have something, we'll certainly bring it to you.
Yeah, oh yeah, sure. Will the zoning commission have any sort of role in the comprehensive plan update? And at what point in the process would we be involved? Trustee Kalina.
Well, I think that decision will, I mean, you know, obviously everybody is a resident. There's going to be meetings. I would assume that because of this board's passion for zoning and knowledge, of course, of zoning, which is, you know, greater than, you know, maybe many of the residents have, just because you have intimate knowledge of the resolution and the application of the resolution, that you would want to be involved with that process. So I would envision that happening. I also want to note, since you were talking about trainings, that Trustee Burns texted in and said that the Western Reserve Land Conservancy is having a virtual and in-person meeting here at the town hall on October 6th at 7 p.m.
That was actually what I was looking for in my emails earlier, because I did see that. And I'm going to repeat it just in case it wasn't clear for the folks and that are attending virtually. On October 6th at 7 p.m., the Western Reserve Land Conservancy is going to be holding a presentation here at Town Hall where they'll talk about land conservation and some of the initiatives that they try to undertake in order to maintain lands as rural, or in many cases even rehabbing land to make it a little bit better from what it was. And personally, I remember seeing their presentation a couple of years ago, and it was very well done. So I'd strongly recommend anyone that is interested in keeping Hinckley rural or working to ensure that we maintain as much of the beautiful naturescapes that we have would attend, or certainly at least try to attend virtually. Because will it be broadcast virtually, Trustee Kalina?
Yes.
Okay, outstanding. Thank you. All right. I'm talking too much as usual.
I have two things, Mr. Marzullo.
Certainly.
Just to kind of add to our, maybe our plans for discussing some things. And I have two things that have come up in my law practice in other townships. So not in Hinckley, but working with clients. One has been the advent of Airbnbs and VRBO.
Yep.
And how we handle that versus, is that a residential use versus a business use? And I realize we're a little bit more spread out here. So it might not be as much of an issue, but I've had some clients with major issues with that causing a disturbance in the community. Mm-hmm. So just something on the horizon. And then the other matter that I've had some experience recently is specifically pertaining to group homes, or what we term adult family homes. And we really don't have anything defined within the zoning code. And I realize that we're limited in some instances because of fair housing laws as to how we can handle that. But I guess my in dealing with some of these matters, when we're talking about when it becomes an issue, we've had scenarios where the owner will rent out the property to a company that solely provides housing to persons with disabilities, and there's little to no supervision of the people who live there, and they're not adequately cared for, and it becomes an issue sometimes as to whether or not that's business use if it's being rented to a company to provide nursing services, mm-hmm. and whether or not that should be determined to be a business use. So there might not be a whole lot that we can do, and we might need to contact.
I do think we already addressed the senior care facilities, and I guess it doesn't necessarily have to be care facilities, senior care facilities, but certainly addressing care facilities, and that is, I want to say, conditional use in B1. But more specifically, what you're talking about with the having multiple families in one home. For, I want to say 2 years, we had on the agenda, we wanted to address in-law suites. And ultimately, we ended up removing it from the agenda because in so doing, in trying to define what an in-law suite is, and in trying to define what a family is, and this and this and this and this, ultimately, we kind of recognize that once we put something in, it's almost putting a crack in a really solid door that right now is pretty clear cut. Single family homes, one per lot, throughout the residential districts of the community. So I don't know if there's something we want to go into more.
But I think I think she's bringing up a very good point in that it would still just be one home on the lot. It's just that you have 4 or 5 adults living within that one home, right?
Correct.
That's the sort of adult family home that she's referencing.
And what I guess what I would get to with that is that that's not a family. And since we don't have a definition of a family, and I don't know that you can define a family. What's that?
So you'll be charged with being religious if you define the family.
Well, I think it also goes to there are blended families. There are certainly common law marriages that were never actually legally joined or religiously joined. And when you have 5 adults in one in one home. I don't know, Tom, maybe you could provide some light, whether or not that would actually be defined as a family or more of a roommate situation.
I know when I lived in Lodi, we had group homes for, I think we had at least two. And I wasn't in zoning at that time. I don't know how the zoning dealt with it, but I think it's a good thing to look at because it's very common to. I had a daughter who worked in Ashland and went to. There must have been 10 group homes that she was in charge of. So she might be able to give me some insight on it, but very common thing.
Well, absolutely.
I don't know if it's still there, but we have one down here on West 130th. Now, Chris, do you know, is it still there? Veterans?
I don't know the answer to
6 or
that.
7 adults. The federal government stepped into the Board of Zoning Appeals. Did not talk to us, but went to the prosecutor and the prosecutors. So I don't know what took place, but the prosecutor just said that there's nothing you can do about it. Fortunately, the issue that presented itself, the lady who owned the home and who was running the home did it in spite of the fact that she could have walked away from it.
I'd be very interested in seeing some language on that, and if you have any proposal for the language, because I think that was a pretty nice nuance that you brought about, that you were saying that it was a corporation that was actually renting the space. And so if we can tackle it that way, without worrying about trusts that might also own homes and whatnot, if we can figure out a way to cage it just so that we're preventing a corporation from renting a home for the purpose of this, might be something to explore.
Sure. And I actually did prepare proposed language. I believe it was LaGrange Township. And I'm not sure what the final form they adopted it, but they're pretty receptive to it.
I'll be honest. I think it's a very complicated situation to address. Because I certainly don't want to in any way preclude people from enjoying the township. Simultaneously, I don't want folks to come in and remove or to create a potential nuisance or problem for current residents.
Sure. And at least in my personal dealing with these situations, it was basically that the people who have been hired to assist the people with mental disabilities, they're supposed to be there 24/7, and a lot of times they're not licensed. They have felony convictions. They're hired because they're the cheapest labor available, and they bring drugs in there. I mean, it was a disaster, and not having any teeth in the zoning resolution to be able to do anything about it, that was tough.
And that's where I was wondering if the single family stipulation are the teeth, because we also know that Tom, no one in the zoning office goes out knocking on doors and verifying that, are you living up to the zoning regulations? Because really it's complaint driven. Ms. Crew, you look like you were about to say something before.
No, I'm just wondering how this goes. I mean, with the comprehensive plan and the audit, what are the thoughts about further opening it up to apartments or other facilities? Because you mentioned this one group home. I know of several of them in North Royalton that started small and then just grew. So it's almost as if an apartment complex then. So I'm just wondering, like, does it all lead into another, So I'm not against the group homes per se at all, but I'm just saying, does it then open the door for more apartment type facilities?
And just from my perspective, I think the more that we define at least some of these, what's a boarding house, what's a rooming house, where is that allowed? We're sort of, at least in my opinion, heading off potential issues before they come before us.
It's a big one to chew on. It's a lot of stuff that, frankly, I don't have a whole lot of experience with.
Well, maybe we can ask around, some of the other townships may have addressed this.
Sounds like LaGrange might have addressed it. So maybe we start with LaGrange and ask what they did.
Yeah. Certainly worthwhile. And I really appreciate bringing up the Airbnb and the VRBO, because I know specifically in some cities, it's a very big problem. Mm-hmm. Especially in cities that are like big football towns and you're right by a stadium. It ends up being a huge hassle for the folks that live right there.
Mr. Banley, can you move that microphone about a foot closer to your center of your table? You're quiet on this end. Thank you. No, bring it closer to you, about a foot closer. Okay, thank you. And share it too.
Honestly, that's a pretty big list of things to tackle. Unless someone has something that's dying that we really want to throw on to. No. Before I kind of open it up for public comment, I'd like to get a consensus on the 20th or the 24th, so we can get the wheels in motion on that one. Which, Lindsay, you said you'll be gone the 20th. Will you be back by the 24th?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. September is like annual meeting season for me, so I have like this week is a 4-night meeting week. So Fridays are good, but yeah, that Monday I have an annual meeting and I can't get out of it.
Okay. When you say it's an annual meeting, does that mean like you're going to be gone and then you're coming in on Friday? And
no, I'm sorry. I'll be in Streetsboro.
Oh.
And then I'll be back here.
Oh,
yeah.
She represents HOH. So have the annual meeting.
Got it. All right. Okay. Yeah, now I don't feel bad for you.
Just to sit through these every day.
It's exciting.
Absolutely it is. And how many of the HOAs have dissolved?
I've represented hundreds. I've dissolved one.
Wow. Better ratio than some locations. Not going to mention any. So then if everyone's okay, I mean, I'm fine giving up a Friday evening, especially since it'll probably be an hour, maybe 2 meeting to really get a nice education. If everyone's okay with that.
Well, I won't be here on the 24th.
You won't be here on the 24th.
We'll be in southern Utah,
Southern Utah.
even on the 22nd.
My Lord. Vacation again?
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hope to.
I won't be offended if you proceed without.
Yeah, but I also don't want to mess up Michelle's workout schedule.
Put it on me.
Let's just do it on the 24th. We'll make it if that's amenable to everyone else. We'll wrap up the weekend or the week and get some good information, and it's a little bit closer to our next meeting.
Could they record this? That way Dave can watch it?
I was trying to think of what I'd be doing. I thought to say 7 o'clock, so it'll be 9 o'clock there. I think maybe.
No, it'd be 5 o'clock.
Yeah, 5.
The other way early.
Probably be taking a nap
Probably.
before your night out. I know how that works.
7 o'clock, Matt? Is that what you want?
If that works.
6:30, 6 o'clock?
Well, I mean, how about everyone else? I'm thinking 7 because it gives.
7's good.
7 is fine.
Okay. 7 o'clock on the 24th. All right.
At the 7.
All right. I love it.
Foster's at 9.
That's exactly what
I was just thinking.
Are you kidding? Like, I was thinking,
Having the meeting there, but
it did cross my mind, but
yeah,
what about Hoppy Dudes? I haven't been there yet. I got to get there.
that would actually be a good idea.
All right. So let's look at we'll do the evening 24th, 7 p.m. And now I'd like to open up to the public if anybody has anything they'd like to bring up to the commission. No? Sure. Name and address, please.
Sure.
Nikki Long, 1941 Parker. Just to piggyback off of what Ms. Rubel said about the, maybe further defining boarding houses or there was so basically what I'm trying to convey is in addition to corporations, you may want to expand it to not-for-profits. I did see an article. I'll just read the title and I'll send it to you guys if you want. Michigan Civil Rights Chief wades into local zoning decision on basically a minority shelter. So this happened in Michigan. There was a former nursing home facility that a not-for-profit group decided to rent, and they wanted to house minors in there. And, that went before the local zoning board. And before they had even made a decision, one of the top officials in the state of Michigan pretty much told them that they had to be very careful about how they made their decision and they had to make sure they didn't discriminate against anyone. So, since it seems like the federal government now wants to get involved in even local, zoning matters. So just, I guess I would say in addition to corporations, you may also want to put in not-for-profits or church groups, because again, not that I certainly don't want to say I'm against group homes or I don't want to help kids, but I wouldn't want that to be abused in the township. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. So, I've covered everything on my end. Marcus, anything from you? Lindsay?
I have nothing further.
All right, Michelle?
No.
Dave?
Nothing.
Andrew?
I had 6 things I wanted to go.
Okay, great. With 8 subpoints per?
Exactly.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Tom, anything else?
No,
on your end?
I'm good. Thank you.
All right, outstanding.
I'm messaging Denise. I'll get back with you with the date. So just for the public's information, I'm not sure that date's settled. So.
Okay. All right. Then it's not a meeting so much. It's just a workshop.
It's just a workshop.
It's an educational opportunity. So it's not a compulsory attendance. It's not actually, we're not even going to take attendance. It's just an opportunity to learn about planning and zoning. So, Trustee Burns, if you're still on, anything you'd like to? Actually, you can't, can you?
No, I have nothing to add. Thank you. You guys are holding a great meeting. Keep it up.
No, we're going to end it. Unless there's anything else, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Manley,
I'll second.
seconded by Ms. Crew.
And note the time.
All in favor?
First time.
Yes.
Aye. All right. Any opposed? All right. The zoning commission meeting, regular meeting of September 2nd, 2021 is adjourned at 7:57. We did it.
Under an hour.
We did it.
Recording stopped.